I had the privilege of sitting down and talking to Mike Storms. He is a coach, a personal trainer, owner of the best gym in town, Storms Fitness, maybe the best gym in all of New Mexico. As you can see in this clip, he's also a bodybuilder with a very impressive physique. He is a family man and an overall great guy. I had the privilege of sitting down and talking with him and asking him a bunch of questions. I hope you guys enjoy. If you want to contact Mike for coaching or check out the gym Instagram, I put the handles in the description below. This is Mike Storms, the owner of Storms Fitness here. So first question I have for you is how long have you been lifting for?
So consistently lifting has been about 10 years of consistently lifting. I lifted in high schools and sports and here and there in my 20s off and on, but I wasn't super consistent until I'd say 2015.
Okay, cool. And then what sports did you play before you started lifting?
Football and track mostly. I mean, when I was really little, I did, basketball, soccer, that kind of stuff. But really the ones that I really competed in were football and track.
Okay, cool. And you currently compete in bodybuilding. What made you decide to gravitate towards bodybuilding over like powerlifting, CrossFit, things like that?
Really, it was just people in this gym. I had some friends in here, an older lady that was a bodybuilder. She had been a bodybuilder for, 15, 20 years. She'd been doing it. She's in her 60s when I met her. She's in her 70s now, and she thought that she just kept telling me I had really good symmetry, I had really good genetics, and that I should do bodybuilding. And I wasn't really into it the first few years that I was lifting. I just wanted to, kind of ego lift, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I actually hurt myself. And when I did, she said, well, see, that's all that ego lifting. You need to come to my side, come to bodybuilding. And I said, okay, if you coach me, I'll do it. So that was it. I had tweaked my back a little bit and totally changed my training and got on a diet. The rest is here we are.
Yeah. Okay. So would you say it was that tweaking of your back that was kind of the moment that you decided you wanted to do bodybuilding?
Yeah, that was definitely the catalyst. I've always been, kind of enamored with bodybuilders in general. Growing up in the, early 90s, it was all about Arnold. And then it was all about, Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman and Kai Green and those guys. And between that and then, being a fan of professional wrestling as a kid, seeing guys like, Scott Steiner and, Triple H and Goldberg and stuff like that. I was obsessed. I needed traps. I needed to have traps. I needed to have a six pack, so even as a kid, I knew I wanted to look a certain way. So, this just kind of, that was the catalyst that led me into it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of interesting how many people are motivated by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then also different wrestlers are kind of
right. Yeah.
Big catalyst. And are you currently in a prep for a show, or do you have any goals for your next show or anything like that?
I'm not currently in a prep. My life is way too hectic right now to dedicate the time and the brain space that it takes to properly execute a prep. But I'm thinking within the next year or two, I'll get back to it. And I'm really, as soon as next year, it could be this time next year that I could be doing another show would be the soonest I would do it.
Next year, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So early 2026 kind of thing?
Yeah.
And so now getting into your coaching and your personal training, you've basically coached everything: baseball, track, football, basketball. I think there's even another one, right?
Bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding, yeah, bodybuilding,
sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just been a bunch. So really what got me into doing that was my kids. My daughter, she's going to be 21 this year, and she wanted to play football when she was 7. And I said, okay, you can play football. Sure. I played football, went and signed her up and put her on a team. And I didn't really coach. I was more team dad, but I was just around it. And that was back in 2012. And that was the first time that I was like, I kind of like this. I like being around this. And then she gravitated from that into, she was in rodeo and basketball. Those were her big things. And then softball. And then eventually she got into track. And so I just kind of went as she went. And then my sons both, they experimented with basketball, baseball when they were little. And then they just instantly gravitated towards football and track. And it's probably just because that's just what I like. And, your kids kind of go as you go if they like you, I guess. And, So really it's just as my kids have wanted to do stuff, I said, well, let's do it. And there's been times where I didn't plan on coaching. I never planned on coaching high school football or middle school football. And they just didn't have a coach, and they said, there's a team, there's no coach. Okay, so I'll get my coaching license and I'll go coach. And I did, and I enjoyed it. And then they said, oh, everybody's sick with COVID at the high school. We need you to come up because you have your coaching license. I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And they said, well, it doesn't matter. You're the football coach. You're the next in line. Get up here. And then I just never left, and that was 4 years ago. And so I've been there ever since.
Wow. Okay. So it kind of all started with your kids.
Yeah.
And then kind of just pulled you along from there.
Well, I had a good example. My dad coached me and everything too. My dad was my football coach. And it was funny because we've always, and I've tried to model myself after him in that sense of, like, he was never my coach. He was a coach on the team. He was never trying to play daddy ball. He never tried to, he's like, I was a running back. I was a linebacker. And he coached linemen because that's what he did. He's a big guy and I was a small guy. And so he said, you go with them. And if you want to be the starter, you got to be the best. You got to be undeniable. And I use that same line with my kids now. Like, I'm not going to just put you in because you're my kid. You got to be undeniable. You got to be the best one for the job.
So you kind of try to be as non-biased as possible.
I try, yeah. You get a lot of philosophies with dads coaching their kids, and a lot of times dads will be harder on their kids. And a lot of these kids don't have dads, or they don't have any male influence, or they don't have any influence at all, and you're their only influence. And they see that, I'm coaching you as my kid harder. I'm even being mean to you in a sense, but they see it as attention. They see it as love, and they're like, well, why does coach his son harder than he coaches me? Like, I deserve that too? And they don't necessarily consciously think that, but they may not play for you or they may not perform for you because they think that, you're just playing daddy ball. Whether it's, like I said, you could be being mean and they can still have those thoughts. And so I try and maintain, an even keel approach with everything that I do, especially coaching.
Yeah. Okay. That makes perfect sense. And do you prefer working with athletes in a sports setting, like while you're coaching, or do you kind of prefer training people one-on-one? Because you do both now.
So, yeah, doing both. I would say personal training versus coaching in a team setting, there's just different rewards, With personal training, like, the reward is seeing the client's progress. Obviously, if you're coaching somebody for, lifestyle and you see that they're making better conscious food choices, they have a better relationship with food. That's that's kind of the the first thing you notice. Or weight loss, and hey, they're losing weight. Or body transformation, hey, your waist is smaller. Stuff like that. Like, the little rewards kind of add up, especially when you have a client that will do the work and eat the food and do what they're supposed to do, and not kind of lie to you or themselves about what they're doing, because it does happen. Now in a coaching setting, as far as sports goes, it's a much different reward to see that you've built something that, especially with football, that 22 guys can go execute a plan together as a team. There's so many moving parts. You can't just rely on one kid. You can't, when they're 7 years old, you can hand it to the fast kid and say, run that way. But when they're, 17 years old, like the ones I coach now, they all have to do a job, and you have to get all of them prepared. So it's like a whole culture. It's a coaching staff. It's everybody together, knowing that me as the running back coach, and you as the lineman coach, and him as the quarterback coach, and him as the receiver coach. Like, we all got together and we all scored that touchdown. We all won that game offensively, or we won that series, whatever. So it's definitely different with a team.
That is an interesting concept to me about, like, the personal training side is almost like a zoomed in. You get to see the one person.
Yeah, it's a micro level view as opposed to a macro level,
Yeah. Okay. I never would have thought about that. I don't think, because as a coach, I would have thought, like, you're seeing a lot of individual changes in each individual athlete, but it's kind of more like you're seeing a culmination of all these different.
Right.
That is very interesting. And now, if you don't mind, we can get into, like, some talk about the PEDs and enhancements.
Yeah.
So you've been open about PEDs usage to me before.
Yeah.
Would you be down to talk a little bit about your current stack?
Yeah. Right now, I'm taking a few different things. I'm on a pretty mild cycle. It's testosterone and Masteron, 500 milligrams of testosterone, 400 milligrams of Masteron. And then I also take Proviron for free test support and just general, well-being. It's just an ancillary. It is a steroid, but it's doesn't really have a lot of anabolic effects. It's just kind of a little helper. And then I also take Cardarine for endurance, and that's for cardio endurance and muscular endurance, which basically it's hard to describe other than it's cardio in a pill.
Okay.
It gets you going and then it keeps you going. So it's like whenever you're running and you get that runner's high, like that's it. Like that's what it does. So that's what I'm on right now. And it's really just a mild kind of recomp, maintenance phase, just because I'm not anywhere near getting ready for a show. So I won't be doing anything harsh or anything for very long. Not competing in anything, so there's no point.
Okay. And what would be like the purpose of the endurance thing? Whenever, like, is it just kind of help you like with the higher rep sets and stuff like that, or is it?
It's a longer workout, and like for me, like the more straight sets that you can do, whether it's volume, whether it's the number of reps, whether it's the weight, combination of both, like the more that you can do efficiently and properly, the more gains you're going to get out of it. It's just kind of my philosophy, like, straight sets, just do the work,
Yeah. Okay. That makes perfect sense. And are there any compounds that you use that you wouldn't like touch again, that didn't like agree with you, I guess, or that you tried and realized?
I mean, not really. There's certain things that make you feel certain ways. Prepping for a show, this last show that I did, I took Tren for the first time. And I've been enhanced for 5 years now. And so it was the first time I had done it. Everybody talks about it it's kind of a joke, it's kind of a meme at this point. Everybody's like, oh, Tren, we're going to take Tren, but I don't realize like it is dangerous. It's bad for you. It takes years off your life. And is that worth looking a certain way for the summer, or are you going to go compete? If you're not going to compete, you shouldn't take it. Did it agree with me visually? Yeah. Like it didn't, the side effects that I had were insomnia and night sweats, which for recovery is terrible. So like you got a double-edged sword there. You got something that is making your strength and your looks go up while you're in a severe caloric deficit, but you can't recover because you can't freaking sleep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it is a double-edged sword for sure. And, people don't research stuff. A lot of people just, they know somebody, there's some guy in a gym that's like, hey, try this. I'm like, okay. And they just do it. And I've seen it happen, So that's kind of why I'm so open about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any things that I wouldn't use? Probably not. I mean, there's things that have, I would, say, less of the desired effect that I would want. Like, there's certain compounds that, I took that, I did a cycle of this or that, and it didn't really give me the desired effect. So what's the point? I'm not going to shorten my lifespan or risk my health for something that's not going to do exactly what I need it to do.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it was on More Plates, More Dates.
Yeah.
So he was on a podcast with Joe Rogan once, and he was discussing like the trend
affecting
the sleep. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, how does it affect your sleep in your experience, I guess? Is it you get less sleep?
What happens is you're exhausted from the day, right? You got up at 4 a.m., you went and trained clients, you've eaten 3 times by the time you work out, which means you meal prepped, you cooked that food, you did all that stuff, you have all this brain space being used up. Then you go train super hard, and then you still have cardio. You probably did cardio in the morning, fasted. You probably have more cardio in the evening. You got to eat more in between there. You get to your 6th meal, you eat it, you crawl in bed, and you're done for. You pass out. It's beautiful. You think nothing could wake you up, right? You're a dead man. And then 3 hours later, you're pouring sweat. Whoa. And you're like, what the hell? So you're pouring sweat, and you wake up, and you're like, okay, you go get your towel, you dry off. You're like, I'm cutting this beard off in the morning. You throw the towel, you lay down, and then you're just like, and nothing's happening. And I'm not sleeping. and I'm laying here, and now you're getting irritated, and you're like, man, this sucks. I know what it is. It's the drugs. Maybe it's not worth it. And then you wake up the next morning, you finally fall asleep. You maybe slept for 4 hours when you needed 6 or 7, and you wake up and you have veins all over your abs, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll suffer through a little more. You know what I mean? Like, the show's right there. I'm going to finish it out. So, you know, like I said, double-edged sword.
Yeah.
But
okay.
that's what it is to me. I mean, it just kind of makes you just lay there and just, you know, think and not be able to sleep. Like, your brain doesn't shut off.
Is it like a stimulation thing, or are you like amped up kind of, or
you're not amped up? You're just kind of annoyed that you're not asleep. You're you know, and maybe you start, you know, I'm an overthinker, you know, I overanalyze everything and everything I do and say, and, you know, but I never got to like those, like, you know, like thinking about the dumb thing you said 3 years ago. Like, I didn't go down those roads. It was more just like, just awake. You're just laying there. You're like, I wish I was asleep right now. This is annoying, you know? And so for me, it was like interesting that I didn't overthink anything, or, you know, because like if I get caffeine brain, if I take pre-workout too late, I'm old, you know, and I go to sleep, then I'll pass out and it's the same thing, but I'll wake up and then I'm like, up and down. And that's the, you know, so I know it's not that.
Okay, so different than caffeine. That makes sense. And then when did the PEDs or the decision to become enhanced become part of your like journey?
So actually, I had done a few natural bodybuilding shows in 2018, 2019, and then I had this grand plan of like, okay, I feel like I wasn't achieving the look. You know, I was too small. I was like, you know, I'm pushing the food and I get up to 200 pounds and then I have to cut down to 170 to look, you know, like I belong on a stage, to be lean enough. And I said, I'm going to do it. Right. And so, that was the plan, but then it got kind of stalled because of COVID. You know, the shows all got canceled. You know, nothing was going on. And so then what ended up happening is I went into it kind of haphazardly, didn't do my blood work to begin with, didn't have a coach. So then I was just kind of learning on the fly, you know, but yeah, I mean, that was it. It literally had to do with bodybuilding competitions. Like, I was like, I want to go to the next level of bodybuilding, and this is how you do it.
Yeah. So it's kind of just like you want to be the best you could possibly be in the sport kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And then can you talk a little bit about the trade-offs? I guess like you mentioned like the sleep thing with the trend, but you'd wake up and you'd be like, okay, it's sort of worth it sometimes, I guess.
Right. I think the trade-offs are definitely something to be considered, because you know that anything that you put into your body, whether it's alcohol or drugs or, you know, PEDs or anything, it's taken some years off at some point. Like every cheeseburger you eat from McDonald's, it's taken some time off that clock, right? Like there's something in it that is probably not meant for us, you know. So you're taking these, you know, horse steroids, and you know, there's probably something in it that's not supposed to be in humans, you know, that has been tested on humans or whatever, and it's definitely going to take some time off. So the trade-off is definitely real. I think you just have to, you know, do your blood work, have a coach, be able to read that blood work, have a doctor that you can ask questions, you know, and just be able to mitigate those risks so that you don't, you know, die early per se. You know, you don't enlarge your heart and die when you're 50. Like, you can still have a full life and last into your 70s. I mean, look at all these guys like Arnold and Lee Priest and these guys. They're old, you know. Tom Platz, have you seen the way he looks? I mean, that guy was on everything, and he's still on TRT, which I will be. You know, you have to admit that when you get on it, you're on some kind of, you know, hormone replacement therapy for life, unless you just want to be miserable the rest of your life, but you'll probably die sooner without it, just because of the way that hormones affect your general health. But, you know, the dude's legs, he's like 70 years old, and they're just massive, and it's just cut up. And you can think he's got old man skin, but he still looks ridiculous, you know. Yeah. And that's my goal, you know. I want to be an old man that's still jacked,
yeah,
and still able to use it, you know.
And he might like arguably be in better shape, I guess, than he would have been.
Right. Yeah,
that's interesting. And then what's something you wish more people understood about PED use?
I think I wish more people understood that that it's not a magic pill. I think is the best way to say it. You can't put something in your body and make your body change because of something you put in your body, right? You take any street drug, and I'm not talking weed. I'm talking like hard drugs. It's going to change your body without doing anything. You go smoke some meth for a year, it's gonna wreck you. You can do all the steroids you want. If you don't work out and you don't eat, it's not going to do really anything noticeable. You might gain some weight. You might look a little different. You're not going to look like me. You're not going to look like you. And you don't do anything. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, like, there is no magic pill. And that's the one thing that, you hear, part of the reason why I'm so honest about it is because you hear things all the time. Well, he's on steroids. I could look like that if I wasn't on steroids. No, you couldn't. Because you're on the couch. Because you don't have the dedication that it takes to eat the food, lift the weights, do the cardio, all the things that you have to do. There's no magic pill, and PEDs are no exception to that.
I worked at a Planet Fitness for a long time, as you know, and there would be some guys that would come up to me and tell me that they were on various different steroids or whatever. And it would just be mind-boggling sometimes because they would look like
just a dude.
Just a random, you would never guess.
Just a dude. You're like, cool, you look like just a dude. Congrats. Like, that you took 5 years off your life. Why?
Yeah.
For what?
And that kind of plays into the trade-off thing we were talking about. Because, not only do you try to mitigate the risks, but you also want to reap the benefits of the rewards.
Yeah, maximize.
Yeah, okay. And then who do you think PEDs might make sense for, and who do you think should absolutely stay away from?
I think if you just to stay on that same vein there, I think that if you lack the discipline and the dedication that it takes to do the blood work, to talk to the doctor, to eat the food, to do the training, to hire a coach, if you lack those things, then you should not do it. You shouldn't be anywhere near it at any age, no matter what. If you're an older guy and you're experiencing, hormonal issues, then you need to go to an endocrinologist. You need to get on TRT. And you need to have them do everything. I'm talking everything. Like, I'm not going to trust somebody who can't, be trusted to not stop at every fast food joint they see to administer the proper dose of an exogenous hormone, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to put testosterone in your body and you're going to be telling your doctor one thing and doing another, and then you're going to get blood work done, and it's going to be wrong because you're doing it wrong, and they're going to take you off of it because they're not going to risk their license. So if you can't be committed, don't do it. If you need the help, then you need to go and get the help professionally and do it the right way. Who is it for? It's for people who are in I would say any untested sport that requires it to win. If you're in untested powerlifting, there's a reason why those dudes are deadlifting 1,000 pounds. Natural guys get to 600, 700, maybe 8, but even 8, you're questioning at 8. And then those guys that are pushing 1,000, winning any strongman competitions like your size, you'd have to gain to do a strongman, like one of the professional ones. I mean, you'd have to be 50, 60 pounds heavier at your height.
Yeah.
You're picking up 500-pound Atlas stones, and running with them. You're on some PEDs, if you're going to be a competitive bodybuilder. Now, there are natural competitions. If you are on the fence about it, if you think that you have to do steroids in order to compete in bodybuilding, and you're on the fence about it, you're scared about it, I think you should go do a natural show. Hire a coach, go do a natural show. See what you'd look like. Look up some YouTube videos. Look up, anything about like OCB, or even NPC has a natural division now. and those guys, they're impressive looking, they really are. They are super dedicated, and they look a lot better than the guys who you were talking about that are like, I'm on blah, blah, blah. And you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Weird. So I mean, there is, like I said, there is competition that is natural, but if you're trying to get a pro card, if you're trying to go far with it, if you have aspirations of saying, like, maybe you don't want to like make money on it, but you want to say I was a professional bodybuilder and you want to do that, like, it requires PEDs. There's just no two ways about it.
That makes sense. It also kind of like makes me think back to the misconception point where people think it's a magic pill, and yet you just mentioned how the people that shouldn't be taking it are those people that think it's a magic pill that aren't willing to put in the work.
Exactly.
That's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
And then, do you think they impact you mentally, emotionally, or socially at all, or is it not really noticeable for you?
I think it amplifies who you are as a person. I think that anything that you take that is anywhere related to PEDs, whether it's SARMs, research chemicals, peptides, like anything that kind of boosts your look, boosts your confidence, all that, it's going to boost who you are, right? And I'm a pretty outgoing guy. I'm really nice, very friendly to everybody, and I think it just made me more outgoing, more friendly. I talk to everybody. The same. I've never been, as an adult, quick to anger or aggression or anything. So I don't think it does. Like I said, I think it just makes you more of who you are. It kind of just amplifies that. And like we were talking about earlier, it makes you feel and act like a younger man. So like, I think knowing the things I know as a 37-year-old, if it takes me back 10 years hormonally or 15 years, I know all these things. So I'm able to like kind of hash it out in my brain and make myself be even keeled and say, I'm not going to be impulsive, even though I feel like it, because I have goals and there's a reason I'm doing this. Okay.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And do you feel that there's any like addiction factor to them? Like, do you ever feel like you're addicted to them? Or?
I mean, I don't ever feel physically addicted to them. A couple of years ago, as you know, I tore both of my biceps and I was off everything for a good year and a half. And I missed things. Like, I missed having the look. I missed having the recovery time, the endurance, the vascularity, stuff like that. Like, there were certain things that you miss, but I never felt like I had to. But I was, in my mind, I was like, I'm making a comeback. So here we go again. As soon as I was ready to lift, as soon as I was completely cleared by the doctor, it was on, but yeah, I mean, spending that much time off, I can genuinely say it wasn't like I was like, hopelessly waiting for it. Like, I haven't been addicted to nicotine in, 10 years. And when somebody takes out a can of Copenhagen, my lip still itches.
Yeah.
It's different. Okay. I think the addiction factor is definitely different. But people can get addicted to them. They can get addicted to the look if you have an addicted personality. I don't think that they change the way you feel enough, other than just testosterone, like on a TRT basis. I don't think they change the way you feel enough to make you say, like, I just love, Winstrol. Like, Winstrol makes me feel like Superman, so I have to have it. Like, no, it makes your joints ache. It makes you veiny, which is cool, but it makes your joints hurt. Like everything's a double-edged sword with them.
Yeah, like some people can get like addicted to exercise in general. Is it kind of similar to that kind of thing? Like,
it is.
Okay.
It is, definitely.
That makes sense. And do you think that you will come off of them eventually?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's going to come a time I'll probably do another show or two, just depending. I had a goal of competing in the Masters, and for a long time I thought that was 35. So I do a show as a 36-year-old, and there's no Masters for 35 plus for men. It's 40. So I told my wife, I told Dana that I would probably compete again in the Masters when I was 40. So if I don't do anything else, I'll do another show when I'm 40 and hopefully win the Masters and then, be done.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of after you finish competing, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then now we can switch gears a little bit from the PED stuff to just kind of training and philosophy in general for you. Do you have any core philosophies that guide your training or like the way you coach people?
It just depends on the goals, right?
Okay.
Like everything for me is goal based. If you're, if you're a power lifter, then we're trying to make you strong. If we're, if you're a bodybuilder, we're trying to, do everything we can aesthetically to make you look like a bodybuilder. If you're a lifestyle person, I'm just trying to get you moving. I just want you to be generally stronger. I just want you to feel better about yourself so that you keep coming to the gym even when you're not paying a trainer. So it really just depends on the goals. But I love volume and I love weight. I will put volume of straight sets over supersets, triple sets, stuff like that. Like if I can get you to do, 50 leg extensions and then a pyramid set of squats, or we're going, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6. That's what I like to do because it's fun for me, and I feel like the burn and the feeling that you get out of it, the endorphins that you get out of it helps people to keep coming back.
Okay.
And, I feel like that is something that can add to the recovery factor, because you keep coming back, right? Like you get the muscle memory, you get these things that are kind of intangible, that make it enjoyable, that help people get the gains that they want.
So on that same note, how much do you think the enjoyable factor should play into? Like, should everybody have an enjoyable program to them, or is it kind of?
I think that if you're suffering the whole time, it's not sustainable.
Okay.
If you're not enjoying some part of it, like I do have a client mid 50s that she hates lifting, hates it. I mean, she argues with me, tells me she can't all the time, but when she gets cardio, she loves it. Loves cardio. So cardio is like her reward after she lifts.
So the reverse of
So it's the reverse of pretty much everybody, right? Like nobody. And she's like, I love it. I love getting sweaty. I love getting on the elliptical. And I'm like, cool, stay there for an hour. Like, love that thing, and she does. And she's done really well with it. So, it's gotta be a piece. It's gotta be a carrot, right? Your bodybuilding, most people hate the diet. Most people loathe having to eat the same thing every single day and be that disciplined to the T. And everybody around you is going, well, you can't eat that. You can't eat that. Just eat this. It won't hurt. Just a little bit. And it's constant temptation and it's really annoying. So maybe you're not enjoying that, but then you love training. And then you love the way you look. You love the competition. You love being on stage. There's got to be something enjoyable. Yeah.
So it kind of makes the diet part worth it.
Yeah.
That's like the deterring factor for me with bodybuilding is like, I just feel like the dieting would be brutal.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
And are there any lifts or techniques that you think are overrated in the fitness world? Like things you see people doing, they're like,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of goofy stuff that you see on the internet. Something that I've always thought was completely pointless: Turkish get-up. Why?
Turkish get-up. What is that?
That's where they take the dumbbell. You're laying on the ground and you already have not a dumbbell, a goblet or a freaking kettlebell, and you get up and you pick it up one-handed. So it's like it's like. They claim it's a core thing, but it's like a legs and a shoulders and a balance and some core. And it's like there's so many other things that you could do. Go do some shoulder presses. Go do some ab workouts. Do some leg workouts. Like these kind of like all in one. It's the magic pill stuff. It's like if you do this, you'll be in shape. I can't do that stuff. There's a way to do it. Like like there's a lot of fad stuff that I don't like that gets overrated, but I think anybody that's been in the fitness scene long enough knows that it's the basics. The basics are what get it done.
Okay, and by basics, are you talking like compounds or like compound movements?
Or? Yeah, a little bit of compound, a little bit of ancillary, a little bit of isolation. It's just the real basic stuff. I mean, when you're talking about, if you have a push day, maybe you do a bench press for your compound, or maybe you do an overhead press for your compound, but then you do, isolation, cable lateral raises, you do tricep push downs, you do incline press on the Smith machine, like stuff like that. Like it's the real basic movements. There's no gimmicky stuff to it.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of like, this is a little bit off topic, but are you familiar with Connie Rambod? Like as a trainer, I guess.
He sounds familiar.
He's like trained, I guess, multiple of the big bodybuilders.
Yeah. That's why it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has like these like real specific techniques in training. And like I sometimes wonder like if it's like his trademark or if it's like truly effective. Like, for example, he'll like have a lot of the bodybuilders flex for 8 minutes or something, or not 8 minutes, 8 seconds or something like that between sets or something like that.
Right. And you know what's funny is that's something that's in the Arnold Encyclopedia.
Okay. Yeah.
He talks about posing for 10 seconds after every set that he did in the mirror. And that was in the 70s, you know. So that's not a new concept. And I think that does work for bodybuilders. And I think it works for everybody, honestly. And that's why you'll see me teaching all kinds of random people how to pose in here. Because if you can gain mind to muscle, like think about how long it took you to engage your lats when you started working out in the gym. It's the hardest thing for people. But if I can teach you how to pop your lats out and move your scapula down and like push them out, and you're like, oh, I can feel my lats now. Then all of a sudden, your lat pull downs, you're not using your arms anymore. All of a sudden, you're growing your lats. You know, and that's so that's why I think, you know, stuff like that, posing is just it's a huge deal. Flex in the mirror. Look at what you're doing. Look at where your goal is. Think about what you want to see. Connect your mind to your muscle and do some work.
Yeah. Okay. Heck yeah. And how has your training evolved with experience? Like, especially once PEDs became part of the mix, did that change anything?
That really didn't change anything for me. You know, for me, I guess it, you know, like personally training myself, you know, I'm able to add more weight for more volume, you know, because I can recover faster, because I'm stronger, because there's chemicals, you know, in my body helping me, you know, to a certain degree. But like for anybody that I'm training, nobody that I'm training is on PEDs, not one person. And I have 9 clients right now, and they're all in person, and not one of them's on any kind of PEDs. You don't need it, you know. None of them are, you know. I have one bodybuilder, you know, but she's been doing it for a long time, and she just wanted a different feel. She just wanted to, you know, so she's doing her thing. But everybody else, you know, I've got everybody, you know, in different age ranges, but a lot of women, you know, that are, they ask me, they're like, well, if I did something, would it help? And I said, no, just eat the food, do the work. And it works. They keep coming back. They keep paying because they lose inches off their waist and grow their butt or whatever they want to do. Like, we can do it.
Like I've heard things before from people that like PEDs don't actually, they're mostly like a recovery aspect of things.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it is? That like it lets you handle a little bit more volume because you're able to recover a little better, sort of thing?
Exactly. You know, training for my show, I needed to bring up my legs a lot. I was doing legs every other day, and I was able to. I didn't feel up until the end where I was severely depleted. Then I felt like I couldn't move anymore, and I had to be careful with my cardio. Like I had to a lot of my cardio was walking. You know, my legs were just smoked; they were dead. But you know, as far as like just lifting weights, like the majority of that time, that was a 22-week prep. You know, so for 20 weeks, I felt great doing legs 3 times a week, hard, heavy squats. You know, every time you get to 4 plates, every time you're repping 405 on squats, like every couple days. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had the look. My legs looked good.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And that's an interesting topic as well. Cause like I hear things like Tom Platz only would squat like once a month or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
How do you think that would play out? Or is that like a very individual thing? Or?
I don't know. You know, I've heard of those things, and I think it is really individual. I think some people can get away with stuff like that because, you know, they're genetically gifted. You know, a lot of people would say, well, he was on steroids, so of course he only squatted once a month and his legs looked like that. But he did a lot of other stuff. You know, for him, maybe the risk reward wasn't there for squats. Maybe that was his philosophy in those days. Like maybe he was saying like, I don't feel like, you know, maybe he tweaked his back one time squatting. He said, screw that. I'm only going to squat once a month. We'll never know that.
Yeah.
You know, but he was definitely doing a lot of other stuff. You know, he was doing a whole lot of leg extensions and leg press and lunges and the basic stuff, you know, to make his legs look like that because they're freaky. They still are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the best legs probably ever.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, you think he's probably doing more than one leg day per month? Then
yes.
Probably, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That's an interesting thought, because I think a lot of people will say that he squats one time a month, and they think that like, oh, you only have to train legs one time a month and you can still grow.
Yeah, people turn it into a meme. You know, they're like, haha, leg day once a month. I can do that. Every other day is arms and chest, you know?
Yeah, okay. And now we can switch gears a little bit into the gym ownership side of things. So you own this gym that we're sitting in right now. Easily the best gym in town. Probably the best gym in New Mexico, in my opinion. Was owning a gym like a long time goal of yours, or was it something that just kind of fell into place? Or?
I just answered this question the other day, and it was a really good answer, and I can't remember exactly what I said because I'm really good with one-liners one time, and then I forget them. But it was something like a lot of luck and a few really good financial decisions that led up to it, you know? So I was able to, you know, I bought the gym. It was a franchise. You know, I bought into it. I had a silent partner essentially for 5 years. And the only reason that I was able to do that was because I had equity in my house and I was able to give him a large sum of money to buy into it. You know, unfortunately, he was not well. He was sick, and that's why he was selling the gym. So, I mean, was that luck for me? Like, that I just happened to become friends with the guy who owned the gym that I went to? You know, I guess it was. Like, to me, it was just luck. It was just random. And my wife was working in the mental health field, and it was just, you know, she's got a degree in psychology, and she worked in all kinds of different mental health capacities, and outpatient therapy was what she was at. And she was just not enjoying life at all. I was turning wrenches. I didn't care. I was driving a service truck and turning wrenches and working out and, you know, just hanging out, just being a dude, you know. And, you know, but she needed something different, and I thought this could be the perfect opportunity. And so we spent a year, all of 2017 into 2018, trying to figure it out, you know, and trying to get financing and trying to do this and that. Finally, we figured it out, made a plan and executed it, you know, here we are. And then as of, you know, man, what year is it? 2023 was that was when we switched. Yeah. So 2 years. So 2 years of Storms Fitness, and you know, it's been awesome.
It's only gotten better since too, with the powerlifting corners. So,
I agree. I agree.
And what's something the average lifter probably doesn't realize about running a gym? Like something that most people come here don't.
I think probably most people don't think about, you know, what it costs to run a gym. Like, as far as like, you know, they just walk in, you know, their $40 is on auto pay. You know, it's still one of the cheapest gyms in the area. Probably, I think it is the cheapest besides Planet. But if you add up the fees and if you try and get out of your contract with Planet, it's still cheaper.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that they don't realize that, you know, it costs, you know, $16,000, $17,000 a month just to run the gym. Like, the amount of money I spend on toilet paper is just unreal. Toilet paper and fart spray and Fabuloso and bleach, you know, because we constantly, you know, we keep it clean here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have people in here cleaning every single day, and, you know, it costs money. You know, I think that people probably wonder why I drive a pretty old truck. They probably wonder why my wife drives a pretty older truck. You know, it's like, well, because I don't have that much money. You know, not a rich guy.
So it's not as lucrative as people may think.
No, it's not. You know, I make a normal amount of money, I would say, for like, I basically make the same amount of money I was making at my job.
Yeah.
You know, Dana works at Amazon. Like, she has a job. It's not like if we were rich, she wouldn't be working at freaking Amazon. I can tell you that much. But we love it. We love owning the gym, so it's worth it. You know, it's worth it to just be normal, you know, middle class kind of people.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And what's some of like the weirdest or funniest or most memorable, unusual things you've seen here as a gym owner?
Okay, the ghost throwing the clock off the wall. I have a video of it. I will send it to you. But there's some kids, and they're sitting in Studio A in the group room, and there's some people over here lifting, some people doing cardio. There is nothing going on. These two kids are sitting there. They're on their iPad. They're just being good, waiting for their mom or dad or whatever to finish lifting. And all of a sudden, the clock jumps off the wall No joke, 3 feet out from the wall, off, and lands on the floor and breaks. And these kids get up and they're like, and they run and they get their parent. I don't even remember if it's mom or dad. And they're like, the clock. And she's like, what did you do? You know, she was convinced. I had to get the video. So, you know, we have cameras all over. And so we go back and we screen record the video and we show the parent. We're like, they were being good. They weren't even moving. They were glued to the screen and the clock jumped off the damn wall. So I don't know. So that was definitely like one of my number one things. And, you know, other than that, I mean, there's all kinds of goofy stuff. You know, I don't ever, you know, air people out for doing weird crap in the gym. I mean, you know, if you're doing something that's really inappropriate, I'm going to give you the boot because everybody here deserves to have the best experience they can have. And, you know, some weird stuff has happened and I had to kick people out. And, you know, it's not just because we have such a good community here doesn't mean it's exempt from having a weirdo every now and then, you know, that we got to give the boot to. But that's been really rare. I've only kicked 2 people out in, you know, 7 years. And so I think we're doing pretty good, you know?
Yeah. And next question is like, do you have any gym pet peeves? And if you do, are the gym pet peeves as a gym owner different than the gym pet peeves as somebody that just comes to the gym?
I don't think so. You know, I got some really good advice when I bought the gym. When I bought the gym, my cousin, who's a really successful businessman, he told me, he said, Mike, your gym is not special. I said, what do you mean? He said, people are going to not rack their weights. People are not going to wipe their stuff down. People are going to pee on the floor. Whatever it is, it's just a gym. And you have to understand right now that your gym is not special. And just because you are going to build it into this awesome community, whatever your plans are, whatever you're going to do, doesn't mean weird stuff's not going to happen. And if you worry about it, you're going to drive yourself nuts. And I really took that to heart. And I think it was because I did have a pet peeve as a lifter when people wouldn't put their stuff away.
Yeah.
You know, and I would come in the morning, I would lift it. You know, it's 4:30 every morning. I'd get here and I'd go, who did this? Why is it like that? I'd be mad putting weights away and I'd be, you know, cussing and freaking out. And, you know, it was when I first started, I just would get annoyed by it. And now it's just like, I understand. I want them to. I would like for people, and most people do. Like, this gym is much better than most about, like I said, cleanliness. People, you know, we have the wipes, we have the towels, people wipe their stuff down. And all that kind of evolved after COVID. You know, we used to have the rag on the spray bottle. And nobody's going to go grab a wet, nasty rag and spray stuff down. So now everybody has a rag. Now everybody has multiple wipe stations. You know, it's just, it's different to keep it clean. But, you know, as a lifter, I hate the fans. As a gym owner, I got to have the fans because people like the fans. I hate them. I don't like the wind. I like it to be cold. I like to lift when it's out. If I could afford to keep it 65 in here, I would, because I like it. As you know, I like it cold. Open the door if it's cold. I like it. Turn the fan on. I'm like, who made it windy in here?
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
That's funny. Is it like, what is it about the wind?
I don't like it. I don't know. It's my hair. It's something. I'm just like, why do you need the fan on? We're here to sweat. Let's go. Turn that fan off. You're making my sweat cold.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
And what would you say makes you the proudest about your gym community? Because you do have one of the best gym communities here.
Like, you're gonna make me cry. It's everybody here. It's literally everybody here. You know, people probably think when I sign them up and I tell them that everybody here is cool. A simple statement. It's not anything that's like, you know, off the wall, like some big boast or anything. But when I say everybody here is cool, what I mean is that there's not going to be people that are creepy. There's not going to be people that are rude. There's not going to be people that are, you know, making fun of somebody who is a little overweight and they're trying to lose weight. They're not going to be making fun of somebody who's real skinny, who's trying to gain muscle, who, you know, some kid who's in the group room with his shirt off taking pictures. Like, nobody's going to walk up to him and say, oh, you're dumb. You don't have muscles. You shouldn't be taking pictures. Like, everybody's cool here. Everybody is inclusive. We don't care, you know, what, you know, anything. We're all here for the same thing. We're all here to get better. Yeah. And that's a real thing that I've experienced in many other gyms. That's just not there. It's not. And I think that's what makes this the best, honestly. Like, everybody's here for the same goal. Maybe not the same end goal, but in a general sense, like everybody's here to get better. Whether it's at a sport, whether it's at life, whatever, like, it's definitely, hi. You're good. That's definitely my proudest thing is like just the community that we've built.
Okay. Yeah. And now we can kind of switch gears into nutrition and sleep and recovery. What's your typical day of eating look like, either in prep or during the off season?
Prep is 6 meals a day. Prep is egg whites and eggs, oatmeal, cream of rice, protein shake, chicken and rice, turkey and rice, beef and potatoes, eggs and egg whites. Again, like that's what I'm going to eat in prep. It's going to be 6 times a day I'm eating, various measurements depending on the caloric needs, but that's it. When it's time to get really lean, you swap the chicken for fish. You start cutting the carbs, maybe more leafy greens if you're trying to get, more of those micronutrients, stuff like that. But, hi. So, in the off season, I mean, I go back and forth between being somebody who is pretty decent at eating, a maintenance amount of food or maybe a slight surplus, to eating like a unsupervised 12-year-old boy, that has his mom's credit card at Dollar General, and she says, go just get what you need. And he rides his bike over there and gets all the Oreos and the Little Debbie's and frozen pizzas. And so it just depends on what the goals are and what my mentality is at that time.
So during the prep, it's so consistent. You're able to just list all 6 of the meals just off the top of your head.
Yeah.
You got any go-to meals or nutrition hacks that you'd recommend to people? Or
yeah, definitely. I mean, don't number one, like nutritional hack wise, like you can't have too much salt. So if salt is going to help you get your food down, put some salt on it. Just drink some more water. What do you need? Yeah, add salt. Add salt to your food. Don't be afraid of sauce. As long as you can get away with stuff that's low calorie, no calorie, like putting salsa or green chili on chicken and rice is like, it's a game changer. Like people think that they have to eat stuff that tastes bad or that is really bland in order to get the gains, but you can make it taste good. So for me, my go-to meal, my favorite meal during prep, and I still eat it just about every day in the off season, is chicken, rice, avocado, and salsa.
Okay. Yeah.
You mix those together, and salt. You got to put like 1/4 teaspoon of salt, pink Himalayan salt, something like that. It's so good. You will not want to eat it. You're starving. You're going to eat that. You're full. You're like, I could eat that. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to bulk. You're like, that actually sounds really good. So yeah,
so chicken, rice, avocado, salsa, and some salt. Simple as that.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And then why is it the switch between chicken to fish whenever it's time to really lean out? Like I guess I haven't heard that before. That's interesting.
It's just it's lower calories. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's basically the same. It's basically a higher protein by weight than chicken is. So you can get away with eating less of it, less calories.
Okay, that makes sense. And do you track your sleep or recovery in any way? Or just
I don't.
How you feel?
I don't. I mean, it's all by feel. I'm literally right now, like, I'm coaching 2 high school sports right now. So 2 high school sports and, a handful of clients. I do have clients every single day. So, it's like I sleep from 10 to 4:30. So I get 6.5 hours of sleep every day. And as long as I remember to take my allergy medication for my stuffy nose, because it's this time of year, then I won't snore all night and I'll sleep pretty good and I'll have energy. I've been going all day. I've been going since 4 this morning, and my first client at 4:45 this morning, and I'm still here and I'm good. I've eaten 3 times,
So it's like 6.5 hours that you shoot for, kind of thing?
Yeah, I like 7. Okay. 7's my number, and for whatever reason, as I've gotten older, if I get more than that, I start to kind of ache you start to feel the weight of being as heavy as you are. Like, you're just kind of like, this isn't as comfortable as I want it to be, So, I think 7 hours of sleep is like perfect for me.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And have you, I guess we already kind of went over this earlier, but mostly with the trend aspect, but have you noticed the PEDs interfere with your sleep at all, or does it affect your sleep at all?
Only that, that's the only one. Other than that, I don't think I've ever taken anything that messed with my sleep. I think, there are some research chemicals that will help your sleep. Stuff that you can take, and like MK, it makes your sleep better. It increases growth hormone production, and it makes you sleep better, but it also makes you starving. And if you take it during the day, it's going to make you sleepy during the day. So, like, things that people don't know, and it's legal. You can go buy it in Albuquerque at these shops. So you go buy it. You're a kid, and you go buy it, and you take it, and you're like, man, I'm sleepy all day, and I'm starving. This sucks. You just thought it was going to make you huge or whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, so there's certain things that can help it that I have taken, but generally I don't need help because I'm tired. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And like I said, the only thing that makes it hard is Tren. If you like sleep, don't take Tren.
Okay. And then, so between being a coach, like a gym owner and a bodybuilder, you're around like exercise nonstop. Does that ever get old, or is it just you just love it so much?
No, it doesn't get old. I mean, there's times where there are certain aspects that get old. There'll be a piece. There'll be a constant, like a battle with the high school kids. They're not, a group of kids not getting grades. Or there'll be personal training clients that they keep having to reschedule, or they're not eating the food, and we're doing weigh-ins, we're doing measurements, and things aren't changing, and it turns into kind of I was really good on my diet, but then later in the conversation, it's like, but I ate this, and then I ate that, and those are the things that you're kind of like, man, like, I put all this work into making your perfect plan, and you're paying me for it, it's not about the money, it's just about why would you put yourself through it and lie to yourself and spend this money and make me work for you to not, those are the things, those are little pet peeves, that I was really good, except I had a slice of pizza. I was really good, except, man, I woke up and I was hungry, so I ate some ice cream. How much ice cream did you eat? I don't know, I didn't weigh it. I ate some Oreos. How many Oreos did you eat? Just a few. What does that mean? Because when I say just if you ate the whole dang sleeve, you get like 20 of them. You might want a little snacky snack, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm looking at you like, why are you paying me then?
Yeah.
So those, so there's always like a little thing here or there, of course, but before everything, on top of the stuff that you listed, first, I'm a dad. I have 3 kids, and I take care of those guys, as best as I can, and I'm a husband. I take care of my wife as best as I can first, and then I do all that stuff. And I think that those 2 things, I've been a dad my whole life. I tell people that all the time. I had my first kid when I was 16. She's about to be 21, and she's like the best human I know. You know what I mean? Which, talk about proud. That's what I'm proud of. And I think that taking care of them their whole lives, and trying to be like the best husband that I can be and stuff like that, it makes me care about all the other stuff I do in a different way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It puts a more emotional attachment on the people. I get really proud of people, when they are eating the food and they are doing the training, they are seeing the results, and they text me and they say, man, I just hit 2 plates, or whatever the goal was that they had, and they're super excited about it, and they're happy about it, then that makes me happy. And that's what keeps me loving it.
Yeah. That honestly adds even more respect that I have for you. Cause just given the fact that how busy you are with training and exercise constantly, I wouldn't, I guess I didn't think about the fact that family comes first.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing still.
Yeah.
And on that same note, I'm new to personal training.
Yeah.
I also already I've experienced a little bit of the frustration of you saying to do something, or you saying a piece of advice or something like that, and it's completely not followed.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for new personal trainers that are facing that kind of thing? Or?
I think it's just you have to be honest with yourself, with your clients, and you have to call them out. You have to be able to say, I understand, but there's a reason why you're not losing weight, right? Like if your goal is to lose 10 pounds, then you eat this food. If you don't eat this food, okay, or you don't track the food, or you don't always measure, or whatever the reason might be, you have to be able to call them out on it and just say, it's not going to work if you don't do the work. There is no magic pill. There is. It's called work, right? I've been telling people for years that that it's simple, but it's not easy. That's my thing. That's my quote. This whole thing is very simple, but it's not easy, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. If football was easy, everybody would play football. If bodybuilding was easy, everybody would be a bodybuilder. Everybody would look like freaking Jay Cutler, but it's not. It's not easy. It's simple. He ate the same food every day. He did the same workouts week by week. And he got to that because he was disciplined, So if you can call your clients out in a respectful way and maintain relationships and maintain that rapport and like show them that you care about them, it's going to keep them coming back, and they're going to respect you more because you're able to say, look, Adam, if you would stop chugging chocolate milk every night, you won't be so fat, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like whatever the criticism has to be, you have to be able to say it, and like I said, you have to be able to build and maintain relationships, because that's what all this is. Sometimes as a personal trainer, you're going to be a therapist. You're going to be listening to problems, and you're going to be, you might be saying, wow, that's crazy. That's all you say because they just needed a vent, but in the meantime, you make them work their ass off. And then they're going to be happy because they got to vent, and they look in the mirror a week later and they're like, hey, these jeans are a little looser,
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it. Just, I would say build and maintain relationships. Honesty. Okay. Honest relationships.
And then has the gym changed you outside of lifting in terms of like discipline, relationships, or confidence, anything like that?
Yeah, it definitely made me more confident from the get-go. I mean, when I first started lifting, I started being like, oh, okay, like, feel a little bit better about myself, and then when I started bodybuilding, that definitely increased my discipline. Like doing things that you don't want to do starts getting a whole lot easier when you have discipline. But yeah, I mean, those are the two biggest things, and they're huge things. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And what's been the toughest part of your fitness journey?
I mean, definitely the injuries. There's always going to be injuries no matter what sport you're in. Tearing my biceps was I did them 5 months apart. So recovering from that was definitely tough. So just injuries in general. Okay.
And if you could talk to a younger version of yourself that's first starting out in the gym, what's like something you would say to yourself, or a piece of advice you'd have for yourself?
I would definitely tell that guy to listen to the people that know what they're talking about, that have been in it a lot longer. Because I came into it kind of overconfident, thinking I knew what to do, and man, I see some of my old videos of stuff that I was doing, and I'm like, that wasn't even a squat, bro. Like that was literally a half squat. And you posted that on the internet, and we're like, I squatted 3 plates. No, you didn't.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so we got just 2 little wrap-up questions here, or just one little wrap-up question. What's your most honest, no BS piece of advice for someone trying to get jacked?
There is no magic pill.
Okay.
Do the fucking work. Eat the food. Lift the weights. Do what you're supposed to do. Learn how to be disciplined. You will get what you want. That's it.
Nice.
That's it.
Sweet. Well, thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Okay.